In a crowded Manhattan plaza, Ryan Hayes froze mid-step. 20 feet away, a stranger in an expensive suit held his 7-year-old daughter's hand. Before he could react, Emma whispered something in the woman's ear that made her elegant posture stiffen. The woman's eyes found his across the crowd, recognition flickering like lightning in a storm. The clock on Ryan's nightstand read 4:45 when it began to beep, 15 minutes before his usual alarm. He silenced it with a practiced motion, careful not to disturb the peaceful silence of the small Brooklyn apartment. This early morning ritual had become second nature over the past 3 years. Wake before dawn, prepare for the day ahead, and most importantly, ensure Emma had everything she needed before school. The apartment was modest by New York standards, a 2-bedroom walk-up with creaky floors and temperamental plumbing, but it was home. Photos of happier times lined the hallway, most featuring a woman with Emma's same honey-brown hair and bright eyes. Jessica Hayes, gone too soon at 33 from an aggressive cancer that took her in months, leaving Ryan to navigate the world of single parenthood while grieving his college sweetheart. Rising quietly, Ryan slipped into the kitchen, preparing Emma's favorite breakfast of cinnamon French toast with sliced strawberries. As he cooked, he mentally rehearsed the day ahead. Drop Emma at school by 7:30, arrive at Everest Technologies by 8:15. Check the maintenance requests in the system, and tackle the building's endless needs, while everyone else focused on the company's upcoming billion-dollar payment platform launch. 3 years ago, he had been a senior security engineer at a respected firm, on track for a director position. Now, he was the maintenance man that executives barely acknowledged in hallways. The career change had been necessary after Jessica's death. Emma needed stability, regular hours, and a father who could be present. The maintenance position at Everest offered flexible scheduling and decent benefits, even if it meant swallowing his pride and watching less qualified people make decisions about systems he could fix in his sleep. "Dad?" Emma appeared in the doorway, already dressed in her school uniform, hair neatly brushed. "I finished my science project. Can you check it before school?" "Of course, sweetheart," Ryan smiled, setting her plate on the table. "Eat first, then we'll review your project. Remember, Miss Patel said presentation counts too." As they ate breakfast, Ryan helped Emma practice her presentation about the solar system. At 7 years old, she already showed the same analytical mind that had made Jessica a brilliant research scientist. The thought brought a familiar ache to his chest. Jessica should be here for these moments. "You're going to knock their socks off," he assured her, packing her lunchbox with a sandwich, apple slices, and a note with a small joke that would make her smile at lunch. Across town in a sleek penthouse overlooking Central Park, Olivia Bennett's alarm chimed at 5:30. The 36-year-old CEO of Everest Technologies had already been awake for an hour, reviewing quarterly projections and competitor analyses on her tablet. The daughter of a factory worker and a teacher, Olivia had clawed her way to the top of the tech industry through relentless work ethic and a reputation for brilliant strategic thinking. The journey had cost her most personal connections, no serious relationship in 5 years, dinner dates constantly rescheduled due to emergencies, and family holidays missed for international business trips. The penthouse, with its minimalist decor and panoramic views, often felt more like a hotel suite than a home. Finishing her third cup of coffee, Olivia changed into her running clothes for a quick 5 miles in Central Park, before showering and donning her armor, a tailored charcoal suit and heels that added to her already imposing 5'9" frame. Today's board meeting would focus on the upcoming launch of SecurePay, Everest's new payment processing platform that promised to revolutionize online transactions with unprecedented security features. The platform represented nearly 2 years of development and hundreds of millions in investment. Its success would cement Everest's position as an industry leader and vindicate Olivia's aggressive strategy against the board members who had questioned her vision. "Miss Bennett, your car is waiting." Her assistant's voice came through the apartment's intercom system. Also, the security team sent the final vulnerability assessment report for SecurePay. They've given it the all-clear for next week's launch. "Thank you, Sarah. Tell Matthews I'll be down in 3 minutes," Olivia replied, gathering her things. The weight of responsibility settled on her shoulders like a familiar coat, heavy but perfectly fitted after years of wear. In the elevator mirror, she checked her appearance one last time, ensuring her expression revealed nothing of the gnawing anxiety about the launch that had kept her awake most nights this week. Weakness wasn't an option, not when every man in the boardroom was waiting for the first sign of doubt to undermine her authority. At exactly 8:15, Ryan swiped his employee badge at Everest's service entrance after dropping Emma at school. The maintenance office was in the basement, a stark contrast to the gleaming marble lobby and the panoramic views from the executive floors above. His supervisor, a perpetually harried man named Frank, barely looked up from his computer when Ryan entered. "Hayes, we've got HVAC complaints on 14 again," and the executive bathroom on 37 has a leak. Start with the executive floor. You know how they get when their precious bathroom isn't perfect. Got it. Ryan nodded, gathering his tools. What Frank didn't know, what nobody at Everest knew, was that Ryan spent his evenings taking advanced cybersecurity courses online, keeping his skills sharp while Emma slept. He maintained a private server at home where he tested security protocols and studied the latest threats. Old habits died hard, and despite his career change, Ryan couldn't stop thinking like a security engineer. When he'd started at Everest 3 years ago, he'd noticed concerning vulnerabilities in their network architecture. Out of professional courtesy, he documented them in detailed reports and submitted them through proper channels. They were promptly ignored after all. What could the maintenance guy possibly know about network security? The executive floor was quiet when Ryan arrived, most occupants in the morning strategy meeting. He worked efficiently on the bathroom leak, replacing a worn gasket and checking the other fixtures while he had access. As he finished, voices approached from the hallway. The meeting had ended early. Ryan gathered his tools quickly, preferring to remain invisible to the executives who treated maintenance staff like furniture. As he reached for the door, it swung open, and he found himself face to face with Olivia Bennett herself, followed by a cluster of vice presidents deep in conversation. "Excuse me," Ryan murmured, stepping aside. Olivia barely glanced at him, continuing her conversation without pause as she strode past. One of the male executives bumped Ryan's shoulder hard enough to send his toolbox clattering to the floor, tools scattering across the polished marble. Not one of them stopped or acknowledged the incident. Ryan knelt to gather his tools, a familiar burn of humiliation warming his neck. He'd once commanded respect in meetings with CEOs and CTOs. Now he was literally beneath their notice. That evening, after tucking Emma into bed with a chapter from their current bedtime book, Ryan opened his laptop and logged into his personal server. Out of habit, he ran a scan against Everest's public-facing systems, something he did periodically to satisfy his professional curiosity. The scan revealed an anomaly in the authentication protocols for the new SecurePay platform, a subtle vulnerability that could potentially allow credential theft under specific circumstances. It wasn't an obvious flaw, but to Ryan's experienced eye, it stood out like a flashing red light. He spent the next 3 hours documenting the issue and creating a detailed report, complete with suggested fixes that would require minimal changes to the codebase. The next morning, after dropping Emma at school, Ryan printed his report and placed it in an envelope addressed to Daniel Cooper, the Chief Information Security Officer. He hand-delivered it to Cooper's assistant, knowing it would likely join his previous reports in the digital trash bin. Still, he couldn't ignore a potential security risk, especially with the platform launch just days away. Professional integrity demanded he try, even if no one would listen. 3 floors above, Olivia Bennett sat in her office reviewing the latest marketing materials for SecurePay when Daniel Cooper knocked on her door. "We have a situation with one of the maintenance staff," Cooper began without preamble. "The guy's been sending unsolicited security reports about our systems. I think we need to consider terminating him. It's inappropriate for him to be probing our networks." Olivia frowned. "Is he actually accessing our systems improperly?" "Not that we can detect, but he's clearly overstepping his role. This morning he sent a report claiming there's a vulnerability in SecurePay's authentication system, the same system our security team has cleared after months of testing. Have you reviewed his report?" Olivia asked, reaching for the document Cooper held. Cooper's expression tightened. "I glanced at it. It's amateur hour. The guy's a maintenance worker trying to play security expert. Our team has the best credentials in the industry." Olivia skimmed the report, noting the detailed technical specifications and clearly documented testing methodology. It didn't read like amateur work. "What's his name?" "Ryan Hayes. Been with us about 3 years. Maintenance department says he does good work, keeps to himself. Apparently has a kid he's raising alone, wife died or something. I want our team to review this report properly," Olivia decided. "If there's even a small chance he's identified an actual issue, we need to know before launch. And don't terminate him. If anything, we should appreciate staff who care enough about the company to flag potential problems." Cooper looked like he wanted to argue, but nodded stiffly. "I'll have the team look at it, but I guarantee it's nothing. Our security protocols are rock solid." The following day, Ryan received an email from Cooper's office, thanking him for his concern but assuring him that the alleged vulnerability had been assessed and determined to be a false positive. The dismissive tone was clear: "Stay in your lane, maintenance man." Ryan sighed, closing the email. He'd done what he could, the rest was out of his hands. He turned his attention to the day's work orders, trying to ignore the nagging worry that Everest was walking into a potentially costly security breach. Later that afternoon, Ryan's phone rang while he was repairing a stubborn paper jam in the marketing department's printer. It was Emma's school. His daughter had developed a fever and needed to be picked up immediately. Ryan informed Frank, who grudgingly approved his early departure, and hurried to the school. Emma was pale and drowsy in the nurse's office, her forehead hot to the touch. "I don't feel good, Daddy," she murmured, as he gathered her things. "I know, sweetheart. We're going home right now, and you can rest," Ryan soothed, helping her into her coat. The school nurse recommended fluids and monitoring her temperature, suggesting a doctor's visit if the fever persisted overnight. Ryan thanked her and led Emma toward the building's exit, his arm protectively around her small shoulders. As they waited for the elevator in the school's administrative wing, the doors opened to reveal Olivia Bennett. Ryan instantly recognized the CEO, though he was surprised to see her at an elementary school. Emma leaned heavily against him, clearly feeling worse by the minute. Olivia glanced at them briefly as they entered the elevator, then did a double take at Emma's condition. "Is she all right?" she asked, her usually crisp tone softened with concern. "Fever," Ryan explained simply. "School called me to pick her up." Olivia nodded, her eyes lingering on Emma's flushed face. "My nephew goes here," she offered unexpectedly. "I was meeting with the principal about a technology donation program." The elevator descended in awkward silence, until Emma looked up at Olivia with glassy eyes. "Are you the lady who decides everything at Dad's work?" she asked suddenly. Olivia's eyebrows rose in surprise. "I suppose I am. How did you know that?" "Dad said the lady in charge has important meetings all the time and wears really nice shoes," Emma explained, her gaze dropping to Olivia's designer heels. "He said you're super smart but nobody can talk to you 'cause you're too busy saving the company." Ryan felt heat rise to his face. "Emma, Miss Bennett, doesn't need to hear. Your dad works at Everest?" Olivia interrupted, studying Ryan more carefully. "Yes. Maintenance department," Ryan answered, wishing the elevator would move faster. "I'm sorry about my daughter. The fever is making her chatty." "Dad can fix all the computers," Emma continued, oblivious to her father's discomfort. "He used to build really important security things before Mom went to heaven. Now he fixes stuff at your building so he can take care of me better." She leaned closer to Olivia, lowering her voice conspiratorially. "He sent a letter about bad guys trying to steal money from your computers, but nobody listened, 'cause he's just the fixing man now." The elevator mercifully reached the ground floor. "Feel better soon," Olivia said to Emma as Ryan guided his daughter toward the exit, mortification burning in his chest. He could feel Olivia's eyes following them as they left, and he wondered if his job would still exist tomorrow after Emma's fever-induced oversharing. That evening, after giving Emma children's fever reducer and settling her in bed with her favorite stuffed rabbit, Ryan checked his work email one last time. To his surprise, there was a message from Olivia Bennett's executive assistant requesting his presence at a security briefing the following morning if his daughter's condition allowed him to come to work. The message emphasized that his attendance was voluntary but would be appreciated. Ryan stared at the screen in disbelief, wondering what Emma had set in motion with her innocent remarks. Emma's fever broke overnight, and though Ryan offered to let her stay home, she insisted on going to school for her science project presentation. After dropping her off with a promise to check on her at lunch, he made his way to Everest, anxiety knotting his stomach as he thought about the meeting. He'd worn his only suit slightly outdated and a bit loose after the weight he'd lost following Jessica's death, but professional enough for an executive meeting. The security briefing was held in a glass-walled conference room on the 35th floor. When Ryan entered, conversations paused as heads turned in his direction. Daniel Cooper's expression darkened at the sight of him, while Olivia Bennett merely nodded toward an empty chair. "Mr. Hayes, thank you for joining us," she said, her tone neutral but not unwelcoming. "I've asked the team to revisit your security concerns in light of some additional information." For the next hour, Ryan listened as the security team presented their assessment of SecurePay's vulnerabilities or lack thereof, according to their findings. When they finished, Olivia turned to him. "You've heard their analysis. Do you have anything to add, Mr. Hayes?" Ryan hesitated, acutely aware of the hostile glares from Cooper and his team. "May I?" he asked, gesturing toward the presentation laptop. With Olivia's nod of approval, he opened a new window and began typing commands into a terminal. "The vulnerability I identified isn't visible through standard penetration testing," he explained, his fingers moving confidently across the keyboard, as he reverted to the role he'd performed for a decade before becoming a maintenance worker. "It only appears under specific load conditions, when the authentication server handles multiple requests simultaneously from the same origin." The room fell silent as Ryan demonstrated exactly how the vulnerability could be exploited. using a harmless simulation against a test environment he'd created. In a real-world scenario, this could allow attackers to harvest credentials during peak transaction periods exactly when your platform will be most heavily used following the launch. He outlined 3 possible fixes, each requiring minimal code changes, then stepped away from the laptop. That's all I wanted to share. Thank you for your time. Cooper immediately launched into a defensive explanation about false positives and theoretical exploits versus real-world threats, but Olivia cut him off with a raised hand. I want these fixes implemented and tested before launch, she stated firmly. Mr. Hayes, would you be willing to review the changes once they're complete? Before Ryan could answer, Cooper interjected. With all due respect, Miss Bennett, we can't invite maintenance staff into sensitive security operations. There are protocols, clearances. Mr. Hayes has effectively demonstrated more insight into our system's vulnerabilities than your entire team, Daniel, Olivia replied coolly. I'm not interested in protocols that prioritize titles over talent. She turned back to Ryan. You have security clearance as an employee. Would tomorrow afternoon work for the review? Ryan nodded, surprised by the turn of events. Yes, that would be fine. Thank you for considering my input. As the meeting dispersed, Olivia asked Ryan to remain behind. When they were alone in the conference room, she studied him with new interest. Your daughter mentioned you had a background in security before joining our maintenance team. May I ask about your previous experience? Ryan explained his former role as a senior security engineer at a major firm, his specialization in authentication systems, and the circumstances that led to his career change after Jessica's death. Emma needed stability more than I needed a prestigious title, he concluded simply. The maintenance position offered regular hours and good benefits when we needed them most. Olivia's expression softened almost imperceptibly. That couldn't have been an easy decision. It wasn't, Ryan admitted. But it was the right one for Emma. She's my priority. And yet you still take time to identify security vulnerabilities in our systems, Olivia observed. Why bother when your input has been repeatedly dismissed? Ryan shrugged. Professional integrity, I guess. I can't see a potential problem and just ignore it, even if fixing it isn't technically my job anymore. Something shifted in Olivia's expression, respect, perhaps, or recognition of a kindred professional dedication. Well, I'm glad your daughter happened to mention it in that elevator. Sometimes, the most important information comes from unexpected sources. She extended her hand. Thank you for your persistence, Mr. Hayes. Ryan shook her hand, noting the firm grip and direct eye contact, the way one professional acknowledges another. Just doing what anyone would do. No, Olivia replied with certainty. They wouldn't. That's precisely the point. The week of the SecurePay launch arrived with a flurry of activity throughout Everest. Ryan had reviewed the security fixes implemented by Cooper's team, suggesting additional refinements that were, to his surprise, actually incorporated into the final code. He'd returned to his regular maintenance duties afterward, though he'd received a brief email from Olivia thanking him for his contribution to the platform's security. He hadn't expected further acknowledgement, and was content knowing the vulnerability had been addressed. Launch day dawned bright and clear, a perfect May morning in New York City. Ryan dropped Emma at school, promising to pick her up promptly at 3 for ice cream to celebrate her perfect score on the science project. At Everest, the atmosphere was electric with anticipation. The lobby had been transformed for the afternoon launch event, with media representatives, industry analysts, and major potential clients arriving throughout the morning. Ryan avoided the commotion, focusing on his regular tasks while occasionally checking news sites for coverage of the launch. At precisely 2 o'clock, Olivia Bennett took the stage in the transformed lobby to formally introduce SecurePay to the assembled crowd and a livestream audience of thousands. Ryan watched from a maintenance hallway monitor as she confidently outlined the platform's features and security measures. 15 minutes into her presentation, as she was demonstrating the user interface, a murmur rippled through the crowd. Olivia paused, touching her earpiece as someone offstage communicated with her. Her professional composure never wavered, but Ryan recognized the subtle tensing of her shoulders. Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a minor technical delay, she announced smoothly. Please enjoy refreshments in the reception area, while our team resolves the issue. We'll resume shortly. Ryan's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Security Center, 30th floor, now. OB. He hurried to the elevator, bypassing the growing crowd of confused attendees in the lobby. When he reached the security center, he found barely controlled chaos. Screens displayed cascading error messages, and security team members shouted over one another as they tried to identify the source of the problem. Olivia stood in the center, her expression glacial, as Cooper frantically explained the situation. massive DDoS attack targeting our authentication servers. It's not the vulnerability. Hayes identified this as something completely different. We're looking at potential data exposure if we can't contain it within the next few minutes. Olivia spotted Ryan and gestured him over. Can you help? She asked simply, cutting through protocol and chain of command with those 3 words. Ryan scanned the monitors, quickly assessing the situation. This isn't a standard DDoS, he said after a moment. It's a smokescreen for a more targeted attack. He pointed to a pattern in the data traffic. See this? They're using the distributed attack to mask credential harvesting attempts against your admin users. He turned to Cooper. Give me terminal access. I can create a filter to separate the attack traffic from legitimate requests. For once, Cooper didn't argue. Within minutes, Ryan had isolated the malicious traffic patterns and implemented filtering rules that allowed legitimate user connections while blocking the attack vectors. As the immediate threat subsided, he identified the source of the vulnerability not in the SecurePay platform itself, but in an auxiliary system that handled administrative access. Your team didn't catch this because it's actually in the legacy authentication system, not the new platform, he explained. The attackers found a bridge between the old and new systems. With Ryan's guidance, the security team stabilized the situation within 30 minutes. As they worked on a more permanent fix, Ryan glanced at the time and realized with alarm that it was already 2:45. He would be late picking up Emma. He quickly texted her teacher to explain the emergency, promising to arrive as soon as possible, then refocused on helping the team secure the systems. By 3:30, the situation was under control. The launch presentation had resumed with only a minor technical delay acknowledged to the public, and the platform was functioning normally with enhanced monitoring in place. Ryan finally excused himself, explaining that he needed to pick up his daughter. As he hurried toward the elevator, Olivia fell into step beside him. Your daughter Emma, right? She's waiting for you? Ryan nodded, pressing the elevator call button repeatedly as if that would make it arrive faster. I promised I'd pick her up at 3 for ice cream. Her teacher is staying with her, but I hate breaking promises to her. My car and driver are downstairs, Olivia offered. They can get you to her school faster than a cab. It's the least I can do after you just saved our 9-figure investment, and the company's reputation. Ryan wanted to refuse. He'd learned to be self-sufficient these past 3 years, but Emma was waiting, and pride wasn't worth disappointing his daughter. Thank you, I appreciate it. The sleek company car delivered Ryan to Emma's school in record time. He found her sitting on a bench outside the administrative office, swinging her legs and chatting animatedly with her teacher. Her face lit up when she saw him. Dad. Miss Patel said you were saving computers again. Ryan thanked the teacher for staying late, then knelt to give Emma a hug. I'm sorry I'm late, sweetheart. There was an emergency at work. Did you fix it? Emma asked confidently, gathering her backpack. I helped, Ryan acknowledged. But now it's ice cream time, as promised. As they turned to leave, Ryan was surprised to see Olivia standing by the school entrance, having apparently followed in a second company car. She approached somewhat hesitantly, looking almost unsure of herself, an expression Ryan wouldn't have thought possible on the usually confident CEO's face. I hope you don't mind, she said. I thought I might join you for that ice cream, if the offer could extend to a third person. It's been a rather intense day, and I could use something normal. She glanced at Emma. If that's all right with both of you, of course. Emma looked at her father, then back at Olivia. Do you like chocolate chip cookie dough? It's the best kind. An excellent choice, Olivia agreed seriously. Though I'm partial to mint chocolate chip myself. Dad likes boring vanilla, Emma confided, taking her father's hand. But we still love him anyway. The unexpected ice cream outing marked a turning point. Over the following weeks, as the SecurePay platform successfully processed millions of transactions without incident, Ryan found himself increasingly involved in security consultations at Everest, initially informally, then with official temporary assignments that pulled him from maintenance duties. Olivia had personally approved a special project role that allowed him to contribute to security protocols while maintaining the flexible schedule he needed for Emma. Emma, for her part, had taken an immediate liking to Miss Olivia, as she called her. When Olivia discovered Emma's interest in science, she arranged for a tour of Everest's research lab, where Emma spent a fascinating afternoon asking endless questions of the patient researchers. Ryan had worried about Emma becoming too attached to his boss, but he couldn't deny the positive influence Olivia seemed to have on his daughter, or the way Emma's unreserved enthusiasm seemed to soften something in Olivia's usually reserved demeanor. 1 month after the launch incident, Olivia called Ryan to her office. He arrived to find Daniel Cooper already there, looking distinctly uncomfortable. Thank you for coming, Ryan, Olivia began, using his first name as she had started doing in recent weeks. I've asked Daniel to join us, because we've been discussing a restructuring of our security department following last month's incident. Cooper cleared his throat. The board has approved creation of a new position, Chief Vulnerability Officer, reporting directly to Olivia rather than through IT. The role would focus on proactive security assessment across all company systems. He paused, looking like the words physically pained him. We'd like to offer you the position. Ryan blinked in surprise. Me? But I'm not. You've demonstrated exactly the skills and perspective we need, Olivia interjected. You see vulnerabilities others miss precisely because you think differently than our traditional security team. She slid a folder across the desk. The compensation package reflects the seniority of the role, and I've specifically structured it to maintain the schedule flexibility you need for Emma. Ryan opened the folder, his eyes widening at the salary figure nearly triple his maintenance wages, and comparable to his previous senior engineer position. The benefits were equally impressive, including a college fund contribution for Emma. It was everything he would have wanted in a position, a perfect blend of professional advancement and parental practicality. We understand you have unique priorities, Olivia continued. That's why the role includes flexible hours and the option to work remotely 2 days a week. Your perspective as a parent actually adds value to our security approach. You understand what's truly at stake when systems fail. Ryan looked up from the offer letter. Why now? What changed? Olivia and Cooper exchanged glances. The board reviewed the launch incident, Cooper admitted reluctantly. Your actions saved the company from a potential $60 million loss and immeasurable reputational damage. Even I can't argue with those results, personal feelings aside. And, Olivia added more softly, sometimes it takes seeing someone's complete humanity, not just their professional skills, to recognize their true value. Emma helped me see that. 2 months later, on a warm Saturday morning, Ryan stood in his kitchen making pancakes, while Emma arranged strawberries into smiley faces on each plate. His new position had transformed their lives in subtle but meaningful ways: a larger apartment in a better school district, weekends free from the online courses he'd no longer needed, and the professional fulfillment he'd missed since changing careers. He'd insisted on keeping the role's title but declining the corner office that came with it, preferring a workspace closer to the security team he now guided. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. I'll get it, Emma called, racing to the door in her pajamas. Ryan heard her delighted greeting, and then Olivia's warm response as she entered their home, a now regular weekend occurrence that had begun with work discussions and gradually evolved into something more personal. Olivia appeared in the kitchen doorway, casual in jeans and a simple blouse, a stark contrast to her executive armor but somehow more authentic. She held up a bakery box. I brought those croissants Emma mentioned liking last week. Perfect timing, Ryan smiled. Pancakes are almost ready. After breakfast, Emma convinced them both to walk to the nearby park, where a science fair was being held by the community center. As they strolled through the exhibits, Emma ran ahead to examine a volcanic demonstration, leaving Ryan and Olivia walking side by side in comfortable silence. She seems happier, Olivia observed. More confident than when I first met her. Ryan nodded. She is. Having stability helps, but I think she also needed to see that life could feel normal again after what happened with Jessica. He hesitated. We both did. Olivia was quiet for a moment. I never told you why I was really at Emma's school that day we met in the elevator, she said finally. My sister died when I was 8, cancer, like Emma's mother. My nephew is the first in our family to grow up without that shadow hanging over him. I donate to the school's STEM program in my sister's memory every year. Ryan looked at her with new understanding. You never mentioned having a sister. I don't talk about her often, Olivia admitted. It's easier to focus on work, on moving forward. But when I saw you with Emma that day, so clearly putting her needs first, despite whatever was happening at work, it reminded me that there are more important things than corporate ladders and quarterly projections. Ahead of them, Emma waved excitedly from the volcano display, beckoning them to hurry. As they quickened their pace, Olivia's hand brushed against Ryan's, then deliberately found his fingers and interlaced them with her own. He looked at her in surprise, but she kept her eyes forward, watching Emma. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? Ryan asked. For reminding me what matters. Not the company. Not the success. She squeezed his hand gently. Just having someone to come home to. Ryan's steps faltered as the words washed over him, simple yet profound in their honesty. Olivia Bennett, the formidable CEO who commanded boardrooms and negotiated million-dollar deals without blinking, had just opened a door he hadn't realized existed. As Emma ran back to them, grabbing both their hands and pulling them toward the next exhibit, Ryan felt something he hadn't experienced in years. The quiet certainty that sometimes life's most meaningful second chances arrive in ways you never anticipated, through people you never expected to meet.